My name is Kamal Deiratany. I've been doing trainings for about 4 years related to Microsoft 365. I was one of the first Microsoft Teams users. I deployed OneDrive to 20,000 users, and then eventually we got to 40,000. So I have a lot of experience there. It's been changing a lot since it came to existence. However, I think OneDrive is one of the tools that kind of changed the least. There are a lot of features they added, but still kind of looks and feels the same as the beginning. They improved just how it behaves and less bugs now and so on. So if you've used it before, like I remember when they first rolled it out to individuals, it was kind of weird the way it worked. It wasn't as good. For business now, improved a lot, the business version of it, and it doesn't crash as much, and you can sync things easily. It's very smooth, and it just elevates your work style overall. All right, so today I'll just do a OneDrive overview. Then I'm going to talk about the sync client, web access, and some features and my favorite tips and tricks as well. And then we'll go into Q&A. I'll go over this again. I do it in every training just to explain to users what's in Office 365. There are way too many tools, and OneDrive is basically just one of them, but it does connect to other technologies. And that's the benefit of the cloud, is that you can get to pretty much everything from it. This helps a lot when you talk about Microsoft Teams to see how it can connect to a lot of those tools, but OneDrive is right there in the middle. You can also get to SharePoint data, which is shared information or shared documents with your team right there from OneDrive. And you can also use OneDrive itself for file storage and to share with internal and external clients. Great. The screenshots are not showing on this one, I guess, right there. So access files from all your devices is one of the main benefits of OneDrive. Now, of course, with conditional access and some organizational restrictions that you might see, that may not be the case. But if there are not a lot of restrictions, then you can kind of access your OneDrive data from other computers or other devices. You can work anywhere inside or outside your organization. So if you do have a VPN and that is required, then you don't have to be in the office. You just connect and log into OneDrive and access your data. In the past, we used to have network drives, and network drives are kind of limiting in the ways of accessing it. If you are somewhere else, you can on the go use your phone to get into your data. It's protected as well. That's why I said may or may not be able to access, because it depending on the security of the organization, you may or may not be able to use a different device to access your OneDrive. And then the search features are just amazing in OneDrive itself. And I put this out there because in the past, if you use network drive or other technologies, you may not be able to find your content quickly. OneDrive, because it uses the power of SharePoint, you can search even the metadata. You can search the content of a document, and it also searches images. Like, it's very powerful, and it just helps you get to the next level in terms of what you do and how you access your documents. Where do I save a file? So I also like to cover this because a lot of people, when we talk about OneDrive, they're like, what the hell is OneDrive? Like, I've never heard of it. I've heard of SharePoint. And in some cases, people say, I've only heard of OneDrive, never heard of SharePoint. And then you have this Teams thing that they came up with, and now we're up with 3 technologies. I like to display it this way. You have the personal stuff, that's OneDrive. That's what you use for your own content. Think of it as your personal drive. If you used network drives before, this is where nobody can see except you. This is your own data in the cloud. Uh, if you want to save your content on your desktop or in the cloud, you're going to have to use OneDrive because it backs everything up. It uses version control, and you can continue working from anywhere. Once we get to the sync client, you'll realize why OneDrive is important, because you can use it on your desktop at the same time in the cloud. We as the teams, we've covered this before if you attended the training sessions. If not, you can watch the YouTube videos. But Teams allows you to work as a group on content. In the back end, it uses a SharePoint site where you can use you can use it to save files and content. And then you have SharePoint, which is on a large scale. If you have a lot of people you want to share content with, you create a SharePoint site, and then you can upload content and share with others. They all connect together. Why? Because all of them in the back end, they use SharePoint as the file repository. However, it's just the permissions are different. Your OneDrive account is technically a SharePoint account, it's just a private one to you. But when you create a SharePoint account or a site, then you can add people and they can all see the content. And if you leave the organization, that SharePoint site will exist. But if you leave the organization, your OneDrive account will be terminated. Uh,
So,
yeah, go ahead.
Come on, I'm so glad that you go over this, and you're right, we have gone over this a little bit, but it's always so important to, and I appreciate it, because we get questions about this all the time. It's like, well, what's the difference between OneDrive and SharePoint? And oftentimes we find that when we bring on a new customer, they have all of their company data in a OneDrive, and everyone has shared links to those folders. And that's surprisingly common. And it's not their fault because it does get a little complicated. It gets a little complicated, all the tools and cloud storage. So understanding OneDrive is me, one, SharePoint is everyone, share. And thanks for reviewing that again.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I'm someone who used Google products as well. And I will say that if you used Google products before, you might have been used to Drive, right? And yes, OneDrive is the equivalent, and Drive did a better job, maybe Google Drive, in sharing with others, but that was the only option, right? With now, I think they have Spaces or something like that. But with Microsoft 365, SharePoint has already existed for like forever, I feel like. So that's when you need to work with others and other people and collaborate. You need to use SharePoint. If it's just your personal content, then use OneDrive. Also, when you think of Microsoft Teams, when you upload content, you don't want to create a lot of folders. The way Teams should operate is you create a channel and you add content in that channel, and that's it. You don't want to create a lot of folders. OneDrive, you can have that structure, the deep structure of creating as many folders as you want, because it's your content. You know where it's located, you know what you're doing with it. So you can manage it the way you want, just like if you are in your C drive in your documents folder. And we'll get more into that once I show you the sync client and how it works, and it will make more sense. For small projects, you can still use OneDrive. If it's one-to-one, you're working with one individual, maybe it's better to just, share that folder. But keep in mind, if you leave the company, they lose access to it if they didn't save it. Now I'll get into a demo. I'll stop sharing and share a different screen where I'm going to show you first the sync client and how to access OneDrive, and then we'll get into the cloud features of OneDrive. Let me. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
All
Yes.
right. So OneDrive is one of those apps that is tricky to get to because there's not like teams.microsoft.com and it will get you. And you can go, I think, to onedrive.microsoft.com, but you have to log in. There's not a direct link usually that is unique that can work for everybody. Each individual would have their own link in most cases, especially if you're using OneDrive for business. So I would recommend you start by going to office.com. From office.com, on the left hand side, you should be able to see all the apps that you have access to. If you don't see all of them, there's always the all apps button at the bottom left. This sometimes shows you the most recently used applications. And then you'll see this blue cloud icon, and that's OneDrive. When you log in, you'll notice that the URL here is different for each individual. You can't just go to this link and think you are in OneDrive. Each individual, it depends on how the company has it structured. will have the first or last name or something in the URL to log in. So save that URL, bookmark it. That's the easiest way to get to your OneDrive. Again, there's no like OneDrive.com or anything like that. It's just going to go through a loop. So I recommend that the first time you go through Office.com, access OneDrive, and then bookmark the URL that you have. And again, this is a SharePoint site. That's what we mean. OneDrive is basically SharePoint. It works the same exact way, it's just private. And because it's SharePoint, that means you can access your SharePoint documents from OneDrive. So on the left-hand side, you can see that I have project demo. This one is a Teams or SharePoint sites. So yes, you have your My Files on the left-hand side, and you can see all your own private content. Anything under My Files is private, and you can see how it's all private. Anything under quick access normally is a Teams or SharePoint site that you have been added to or you have access to. You can quickly click on it and navigate back and forth between that location. You see, this is a Teams site. It says general, that's how you know, and that's the documents of that Teams site. And I'll go back to my files. Now, the first thing I recommend that you do if you're the first time using OneDrive, or if you've been using it for a while but haven't done it yet, is syncing your content to your desktop. If you have space and you think you want to have your content and access it from your file explorer right here at the bottom, then you can click on the sync client and on the sync button on top. It's going to give you this pop-up, open it to launch OneDrive. In most cases, OneDrive would already be on your desktop. However, if it's not, for some reason, it will download it right there and then. If it doesn't launch for any reason, it just doesn't do anything, then search on your desktop for OneDrive. Sometimes your company already installed it, but in a different way. You would see OneDrive app. It has to say the word app right there. Click on it. That's a different way of launching your OneDrive and activating the sync. You can see that I have a bunch of documents already in sync. So this one is my OneDrive. This is the same thing I see in the cloud. See client, desktop, document, pictures, training, same exact things. And if I create any document in here, now I apologize, I don't have, this is a new virtual machine and I don't have Word downloaded on it. So I'm just going to use test 2. This is just uh, a text document. And if I go back in here and give it a second probably or a quick refresh, that will update. You'll see that it's probably syncing, it was spinning, and now that is a check mark. We'll talk about the status and what it means in a minute. But before we do so, I want to show you how you can manage your OneDrive and know if it's active or not. If it's not showing here at the bottom, the icon, the OneDrive icon, click on this arrow pointing up and you should be able to see it. This is your OneDrive icon, and this tells you if OneDrive is working or not. You want to make sure it's always up to date and it's always blue like this and syncing. If the icon looks like this, where there's an X on top of it or a cross or it's in gray, that means something is wrong. Click on it and try to fix that problem. It usually gives you warning signs of what's going on and how to fix it. Mine is working fine. It's up to date and I have all my document just fine and syncing. The one of the things I would do at first is click on help and settings and go to your settings. From here, you'll see that I have my OneDrive account syncing. This says OneDrive and then dash. Zirbus is the name of the company. Usually whatever organization you work for should be that OneDrive dash the name of that organization. By default, you get 1 GB in OneDrive unless otherwise your company states, but it tells you how much storage you have. Now, the nice thing about OneDrive, the new client especially, you might say, I have, well, 500 GB. There's no way on earth I can sync all of these to my desktop. And you're right, you can't. And it's going to crash everything. Your internet's going to be slow. Your computer's going to be slow. You definitely don't want to sync everything. But when you first hit the sync button, everything will be downloaded with a cloud icon under the status. That cloud icon is very important because this tells you you only have the metadata and the information about the file and link to it, but it's not physically downloaded on your hardware. It's not. It's not saved on your computer. You just can see it, but it's only going to turn from this icon, the cloud, into one of the check marks. There are a couple of them when it's downloaded and when you access it. So if I click on this document, let's say I'm not sure if it's going to work because I don't have Word downloaded, but it looks like it opened. If I close out of it now because it downloaded right away, I need access to the internet to access any of the blue cloud icon documents. And you can see right there, it turned from blue to green. That means it's now saved on my desktop. I believe it stays for 30 days, and if you don't use it, again, it will get offloaded and it will free up that space automatically, so you don't have to do that manually. And then you're saving space. So if you worked on a project for a month that had a lot of videos, documents, and you use them every day, and then you're done with the project, but you want to archive it and keep it there, well, don't do anything. Within a month, OneDrive will realize that you didn't use it, so it will offload it and free up space. If you want to decide what you want to see and what you want to archive just in OneDrive, you can select choose folders. If you do that, then you can select which folders, and not that only, you can even drop down and see what else you want to keep or remove. That's the best way to delete things off of your desktop. Don't ever hit the delete button, because if I delete this one, there's a high chance it's going to delete it from both places. And here, it gave me a warning. Deleted files are removed everywhere. Some people don't even read those things and say, don't show me again, got it. Well, you don't, because now you lost it in both places. You can recover it. That's the nice thing about OneDrive in the cloud. However, I would say try not to delete. Instead of deleting, you can manage your content from the settings right here. I'm gonna go back to choose folders, and I will uncheck clients. Hit OK. You see how it went from 15, I think, to 11. That had the most, yeah, and it's gone now. I don't know if you noticed, but that client's folder is gone. It was 1.5 megabytes. So that's a good exercise from time to time to take a look at it and say, well, I don't need this. Let me just remove it or uncheck it. And it also makes it easier on the eye to see less folders and documents. My other OneDrive account has like, I think I'm close to 70 gigabytes, but only 10 gigabytes is actually saved on that OneDrive account on my desktop. If I check it back, okay, you'll see how quickly it will come back. One other option right there I like to show is the backup option. Backup option here allows you to sync your desktop, documents, and pictures folder. Those folders, some by default, I think most organizations now, when you set up their OneDrive, will sync them. But if it doesn't for some reason, you can select them. My organization allows me to stop the backup if I decided I don't want to back up my pictures anymore. Stop backup, and it's offloaded now. But some organizations force you to sync those three folders. You can't sync your downloads. There are workarounds that we're not going to go over it, but you don't need to sync your OneDrive, your downloads folder anyway.
So this point right here is probably my single favorite aspect of OneDrive, because you can sync, like, let's say you have a lot, like I hear all the time, well, I have a lot of pictures on my hard drive. I have a lot of past documents on my hard drive. Well, if your hard drive fails and you don't have a backup, because usually your IT company is going to be backing up your server unless you specifically have a backup of computers. Long story short is that data is going to be lost. But when you do this backup sync, right? When you back up your, pictures, documents, desktop, now that's synced. I can't, it's called backup, but we'll get into the backup discussion, but it's syncing to the cloud. So for example, when I got a new laptop, I opened up my laptop, I turned it on, and I signed into OneDrive. And my desktop background, all of my folders and files, everything was good to go like my past laptop. Sure, I had to download the applications I use, such as Adobe, and others may have to download QuickBooks and other applications that they use. But my bookmarks were saved in Google Chrome, which we have tech tips on that. And my OneDrive was synced, so all of my files were there. It couldn't have been an easier process. And that was because this managed folder backup was on. And just love it, love it, love it. Especially because I have, probably 2 terabytes a day of my OneDrive because I've expanded it. I don't want all of that on my new laptop hard drive, but I want access to those folders and files. So as Kamal showed earlier, I can I can, just click on it and it downloads to my PC. So now it's on my hard drive and I can work on it. When I'm done working on it, it'll sync back to the cloud, ready for me to access from anywhere.
Exactly. And just one more thing I'll show really quick from the slides because for some reason it's not enabled here yet. I think because it's part of because uh, I yet don't have, I haven't downloaded my Windows apps, but I'm going to show you this slide really quick. This one just shows you how, what it means. So the cloud means online only. The green kind of non-filled check mark is on this device. When you open a file, it's already downloaded for you on the device and you can edit and you can also work offline if it looks like this. If it looks like this, then you have to be connected to the internet to be able to download it that first time and make it turn from this icon to this icon. This icon means it's always going to be available. It's never going to be offloaded by OneDrive. It's always going to be there taking space on your desktop. And to do so, you need to right click on the folder or the document, and there's this option that says always keep on this device. If you do that, then it's going to turn into this um, filled circle, I guess, that will allow you to always access that document. And since we're here, if you right click on any document, there are multiple options that you can use that a lot of people don't know exists on the OneDrive client, sync client, because they assume this is just downloaded on my desktop. It works and behaves the same way as my file explorer folders. Well, it doesn't really actually. If you right click, you'll see a lot more options than if you are in your downloads folder. You can see that share button allows you to quickly share a document. I really like it because sometimes I know I have this folder or this Word document I want to share with my team. I just right click, hit share. You can share the same way as across OneDrive. Like I'll show you now how that share button works, and it works the same way. A view online will open it in the web browser. Version history allows you to see the same document, and when you last modified it, who modified it, you can compare that version to a different one and recover it as well. Always keep on this device, we talked about it. Free up space works the other way around from always keep on this device. So if you have any document with any of those two document with those icons with a check mark, if you click on free up space, it will turn it to online only document. All right. Now that we showed all of that, let's go back to the online version of OneDrive. I talked about the My Files. That's where I'm going to be most of the time. Then I'll briefly cover recent, shared, and recycled bin. In here, this is your OneDrive. Some people who come from different technologies before, you might like a different view. So on the top right-hand side, that's a good place to think about. Do you want more a compact list view or tiles? It offers those options for the same content. I like the list, I'm just used to it because it gives me some columns here where I can view the modified by, and some other information. The most important one to me is the sharing because I can quickly tell if I have shared this document with someone or not. We'll get into it in a second. You can sort, obviously, here, multiple options. Uh, Settings, I'll go over it quickly, but it's really different from company to company. Some companies disable themes because they have their own organization theme and so on. Some organizations turn off passwords, but there's some OneDrive settings that you can take a look at here and see if you want to modify anything. But it may not look the same for you, and your organization may not allow you to make as many changes as you would see here. Um, Simply here, if you look at in the middle, you have the new, where you can just create a new document if you prefer to work in the web. I use it a lot. I create Word documents, Excel, PowerPoint, sometimes straight from the cloud from OneDrive. You can also upload documents, and if you are in a different device using someone else's device and you're logged into OneDrive and you need to add more documents, you can use that upload feature. Sync, we covered it. Automate, also one of my favorite features, but we're not going to go that technical today, but you can create flows and some automations on your documents. That's a whole different topic that we can spend more than an hour on if we want. When you select a folder, you might see different options than when you select the document. I'm going to select first a folder, show you you can download, you can delete, rename, move it, and copy it. Uh, these two is these two I want to focus on for a second. Because sometimes you start working on a project and it's a small one just for you, a few other team members, and perfect. I mean, you use OneDrive. That's what Kamal told you, right? Because it's just your own project. But then the organization decides to make it a much bigger project, and now you're working with a lot more people. Well, you already have everything in OneDrive. You might as well just use OneDrive, right? Uh, you can do that if you want, but that's not the best practice. That's why we have Teams and SharePoint. So you can keep the content in your OneDrive. You can just copy that or create a copy or move it to Teams or SharePoint by selecting copy. And then it will ask you, where do you want to move it? I'm going to select project demo. I'm going to move it into the general folder and I'm going to copy it here. Now it's going to stay in my OneDrive, but it's going to create a copy of it in that project folder. A copy doesn't mean it's linked. It means it's just copy and pasted that same folder in that new location. If I make changes to this documents folder, it will not reflect what's in Teams. That also confuses people sometimes. It's completely different copy, so keep that in mind. So that's the copy, and move to, you can use some of the other options right there. Now let's talk about, if you have a Word document, I believe there are a couple more options. Yeah, so you can open it, and if you have, this is Word, if you have desktop app downloaded on your machine, then it's gonna have a third option that says open in desktop. I guess it recognized there's no OneDrive, so it didn't show me that option, or maybe after you open it, it's gonna give you that option. You can also copy link, download, and so on. Let's talk about share and copy link. That's also a topic that is very interesting. It sounds easy. Well, share is share, copy link is copy link. But copy link really will only work to those who already have kind of access to it. In most cases, a lot of organizations have anyone with a link disabled. Um, so copy link will allow you to just give it to people and they can click on it and then get access and gain access to it. I usually don't recommend this. You can definitely use it if it's a public document that you want more people to access it. But the share one allows you to control it better. When you click on the share button, just like SharePoint, you will have that first option. My organization has it set up to anyone with the link can edit. That means anonymous people can also access this and make changes to it. This is the least secure tenant you'll see, but I have it like this on purpose so I can show you all the options. When you have the anyone with the link option, you will see a bunch of additional security features down there. First one is allow editing. If I keep that checked, that means anyone that accesses the document can edit my document. So that hello world document, they can make changes to it from my OneDrive. So they're technically accessing a document in my own OneDrive and they can make changes and I will see those changes right away. Open and review mode. only if once I check it, you'll see how um, this one means that they can make changes, but they're not really making changes. What they're doing is they're highlighting the changes, and I can see what they deleted, what they added. It will be all highlighted. It's just like reviewing an essay. If they misspelled something, you deleted, changed the characters or something, same thing. It allows them to review that document. So I'm going to keep it turned off. If your organization has that first option enabled, anyone with the link, then you can set an expiration date. You can even set a password for it. Hello, week, I know. And then you can block download even. Blocking download just allows them to view that document. They can't really make any changes. They can't download it. They can still take screenshots. We can't prevent that, but they can't copy, paste, or download. So they can't even select and copy the content. The reason I can't use it, I think, because I need to turn off allow editing, then I will be able to block download. And I don't think if I check this, it will turn off block download again. Yes. No, let's just not do a password. The next one would be people in my organization with the link. So this one means that anyone in your organization, whether um, you know who they are or not. If they use that link, they'll be able to access it. However, if I send it to someone outside my organization, they're not going to be able to access it. People with existing access, I actually like this one and I use it. Many people ask me why the hell do they have it? It's not, doesn't make sense. But this one, if you know you already shared a document with me, if you click on people here, like, well, I work with you in the same organization, I'm just going to send you this link. Now you're generating a different link. So now they have two links to access it, and there are two links you're trying to manage. But if you select people with existing access, everyone who already got a link, no matter how, they'll be able to access it again, whether you shared specifically with them or using this link. If you send them this one, it will work internally and externally. If you share it with someone outside the organization, it will also work for them. It just kind of refreshes things. Specific people, you can search your organization's database and select that person, and then they can edit the document. All right, so I'm just going to use anyone with the link. Or you can type in someone's email and send it to them, or you can copy that link right here. If you copy it, then they can access it and make changes to it. If you click on the three dots here, you can manage access, or you can select the document. There are three dots where you can see a lot more options than the ones on top. We talked about many of them, but manage access is another one. Now this document is kind of no longer private. Let me refresh to show you. This one says shared. You can even click here on the shared to see who it's been shared with. It's going to open that permissions tab, and you can see that green icon to tell me this has been shared with anyone. Anyone with this link will be able to access it. If I want to change those permissions, I click on the three dots and then remove link. That will remove that specific sharing link from those users, so they can no longer access this document. Or you can even update expiration date. If you already shared it with them and you forgot to add that expiration date, then you can manage those permissions. You can create more permissions from here, or if you have multiple links, you can manage each one individually. Or you can completely stop sharing. Just, I'm done with it, all of you. I don't want you to see this document, so you can stop sharing. The nice thing about using Office Online documents in OneDrive is that you can access them and make changes to them. I'm going to type hello. Whoever has this open, there's someone guest contributor because I shared it anonymously. They're able to see it and they can even type. So now they're typing. So you can see how if I hover over them, that is the guest contributor that is typing right now. They can delete everything. They can add things, right? We can both type at the same time and make changes. Now we're into Word Online, but there are some nice features in Word Online where you can edit document, review it, or just view it, or open it in desktop. You can share it out directly from here, same menu option. You can see who's in it, who's modifying. You can comment as well. No, I'm just going to close it. It's automatically going to be saved. And this means now we have different version for this document. So if I click on the three dots, I can click on version history, and that will show me the list of document versions that I have. I have a couple only from only a few minutes ago, both modified by me. You can select those three dots again to restore the file, open it, or just delete that version. If you click on restore, you can see what will happen. I think it was open, so it didn't do it right away. So let's restore that document. And now this is the current version of that specific document. If you prefer to create a separate copy, so instead of restoring the document, what you can do is open it, open the file, and then download it as a separate copy. All right, so we talked about everything in here. Details, that's like kind of the metadata of the document. You can see more information on who accessed it, when they edited. A lot of people ask me about this, and that's where you can find it, who modified that document. But if you want to see exactly what kind of work they did, you need to open that document. And I believe, I forgot, but I think there's a button here that allows you to catch up to everything well, I went to the older version of the document that doesn't have anything. Yeah, that catch up right there should kind of highlight things that have been changed. This is empty document, so it didn't help. All right, so now we covered a lot of those things in here. So let me open that hello world actually one more time. And I'm just gonna take a screenshot of something and save it in here. I'll take a screenshot, put it in here. That was the first news article that I saw. Hello, everyone. And I will say something kind of unique conversation. I just put a few words. I have a screenshot. And I'm done. I'm gonna close out of it. This is where the power of that search comes in play. I'm gonna search hello world and it found that document. You can not only search the top bar, but you can also filter. Are you looking at files, all of them, or just my files, or the organization? The whole organization will also search for SharePoint public sites that you may not know you even have access to. My files, only OneDrive. All files will include any of the folders or any of the things you see under quick access. So I did find it, which is nice. Um, if you want to search, let's say conversation, hopefully I didn't misspell it. That conversation, that piece, I put it inside hello world and you can see that it found it. And you can even search the content. I believe it takes a minute, but once the image is scanned by OneDrive, because I just uploaded it, you can even search content inside of that image. So if you have screenshots that that search will also find them. Let's try again. I think there was Russian fighter thing. It's not finding it. Well, nice. It embarrassed me, but most of the time I've seen so many screenshots come up, and you might wonder why is a screenshot showing up. That's because it read the text. They use AI to read it and then get back to you and say, well, I see that text is here in this document. Now, the next thing we'll talk about is the recent. That's what you recently worked on. If you remember someone shared something with you and you have a bunch of folders, you forgot where it went, you can find it in here. Shared documents. Um, This one, if someone shared with you a document, you'll see it here and you can access it. You can even add it to your own OneDrive. And it's a really nice feature because it allows you to, instead of coming to the shared document every time, you can sync it to your OneDrive as well. All right, so next we have the shared by you. If you shared any documents with pretty much anyone outside your organization, then you can see what those documents are and then manage them. Only have one, but if you have, let's say, 10, 20, 30 folders, from time to time, I really recommend that you go in and take a look at what you shared with others. And if you want to manage them, stop sharing, manage access, or share them again. All right, and then recycle bin, if you deleted things, you'll find them here and you can recover them. This is 61 or 62 days, I think. It's going to stay here and then it's going to be moved to the second stage recycle bin. And then admins have about 30 days to recover that document. And that brings it to an end for basic, level 100 OneDrive features. Any questions that we have?
So this is this has been so helpful. I actually learned a couple things. I've got a lot of items here for tech tips. I'm going to allow because this is in webinar, so it automatically like mutes attendees and mutes camera. But I'm going to go ahead and allow mic. So if anyone has a question, they can ask it here or the chat, whatever you're more comfortable in. We do have a chat question that has already come in, so I'll get to that first. So I'm going to go ahead and allow mics now. All right, so I'm going to jump into the chat here. Penny said, curious, can you set a shortcut to a OneDrive file folder in your quick access section of File Explorer?
So you're trying to access a specific folder in the quick access. Yes, it works the same exact way as any of your File Explorer documents. So if you can add it as a to your quick access or you can remove it, it works that way. You can definitely do that. You just need to right click on it and then it says pin to quick access and you'll have it there. Let me see if I can do it from this virtual machine. Yeah, pin to quick access. And when you do that, it's going to show up here. And then you can remove it if you want.
Nice. So once OneDrive is um, sunk, once it's synced up, you'll be able to do it just like any other folder or file.
Yeah, think of it really as a C drive or anything like that. It has the same link here on top. If I access training, same kind of path. It's C users, Searbus admin, OneDrive dash Searbus, and then training. Uh, so yeah, it works the same way.
Nice. Do we have this? That was really robust. It's funny because you said this is basic level training, but it's amazing how in-depth OneDrive gets just on the surface. There's obviously gonna be a whole recording. I picked up a lot of tech tips. I'm gonna be including, such as OneDrive statuses, difference between OneDrive and SharePoint. How to see what this is really good that I actually didn't know is how to see what files you have shared with someone in the past that they might still have access to. You can go in there and revoke all that or
Exactly.
some of that. That is super helpful because I'm sharing out like crazy. Now, again, it's my OneDrive folder. There's not anything too sensitive on there, but it's still good to say, hey, I don't know if I want anyone editing that anymore. Um, that's great.
Yeah, and from your desktop client, if you have that sync activated, you can see quickly which documents or which folders have something shared in them by looking at the mini person right there. That means this has been shared with someone.
Nice. That's fantastic.
And one last thing I want to cover that I honestly forgot too is that the OneDrive Sync client doesn't only work on your OneDrive. You can sync your team folders as well. This is a sensitive topic. There are companies that just it's a no-no to them. I'm going to show it because if it's enabled, that means that organization is allowing it. That organization should disable it if they don't want to allow team sync to work. So when you go to a team folder, you can sync the whole thing. So this is a project team from Microsoft Teams. I can sync the whole thing. So if I have 10 channels, then I can sync all of them by just clicking on the sync button. It will activate my OneDrive and it will create a different folder for my Teams and SharePoint sites that I have. If I go now into OneDrive, you will notice a different icon. The name of your organization with bunch of buildings, I guess because it's big. If you click there, you'll see the name of that team site dash what you clicked sync on basically. So if you see the name of the team site dash documents, that means you shared pretty much everything. But if you want, you can only sync the general folder and I can just click on sync, right? Do the same thing. And now I have access to my team documents in directly from my file explorer. It works the same exact way as OneDrive in terms of what the icons mean and how you can free up space or keep it. This didn't do anything, I bet, because it's already there. I mean, I already have that general document. But the nice thing about it, if you have a large team with bunch of folders and channels, you don't have to sync all of them. You can just go as deep as you want in folders hierarchy, and I'm gonna go down to documents. I'll open it. I would recommend you open, then click on sync, and then I will sync only the documents folder. So this one really helps in terms of if you have a project and you want to see the documents and use them directly from your desktop. It works the same way. If it's a Word, Excel document, you can open it, and those will automatically save and sync to your team's site. So that's another feature that you can use by syncing your Teams or SharePoint documents into your desktop.
That's great. Great tip. SharePoint's the same way. So if you're SharePoint heavy, you can sync SharePoint. So your file explorer can have everything you need access to right there. You don't have to go to a web browser. I see people very often will go to SharePoint.com to work on their files. It's all in the web browser. Now, if you have Business Basic license, that's all you can do. But having that sync puts it right in your file explorer, just like a server share, just like you're used to doing. And that's why the transition from on-premise server file systems is so easy, because we can make it look exactly like they're used to, except now they have access to everywhere, to all the files from everywhere. Now that does provide some risks. I'm going to let Mike and Shane kind of chime in here in a minute as well, because an important thing about Microsoft 365 is, one, it's amazing because we are almost completely SharePoint and OneDrive based, because you can access from anywhere. I can access on my phone, I can access on my laptop, home computer, etc. The benefit of the cloud is you can access it from anywhere. The drawback to the cloud is anyone can access it from anywhere. So if you're working with an IT company that isn't a specialist in this, there's a very high chance that anyone can go to a web browser, put in your information, and boom, have access to your whole company. We, of course, Alltek Data Management Global Request, put important things in place to make sure that doesn't happen. Some of those things are multi-factor authentication. So even if a bad guy gets your password, they're also going to have to get the push notification on your phone. That is one criteria we put in place. We put access control saying, hey, I don't really want someone seeing our work stuff on their personal phone. So there's important things that have to be put in place if you move to a cloud environment that a lot of, and I'm just saying this from experience of 6 years of taking over Microsoft 365 accounts, the vast majority of them are not set up properly from a security perspective. Productivity perspective may be there, but not so much on the security side, which is super important. And now I'm going to let Shane and Mike comment a little bit, if y'all are available here, to discuss two things. One, Kamal mentioned if an employee leaves, that OneDrive access is lost and those files are lost. And the other thing is deleting files. Kamal made a really good point that people will delete a file on OneDrive instead of just, stop the sync their file explorer. How do you combat specifically those two issues? You may have different approaches to both of those, but what happens when an employee leaves, data is lost, and then what happens if employee deletes data? How do you guys secure that?
Well, I guess I'll go first. Now, on our side of the business up here in Buffalo, New York, we recommend to our clients to have policy and procedures with onboarding and offboarding policies for employees. So they can walk through the steps of their cloud apps and decide, what am I going to do with this user's data? once they leave my organization, right? If they have a backup product in place, some of the backup products will hold that data indefinitely if you set up the user correct or disable the user correctly within Office 365. So really it goes down to what do you want to do, client, with this user? Now, a basic user might be one direction in the organization, like a low-level employee. But if it's a C-level or a B-level person in the organization, they might want to keep that data alive for a while to make sure they're not missing anything. So go back to the client, have them do a review of their policy and procedures, but offboarding an employee, I think, is very important.
Yeah, I think you touched on it, Mike. The backing up of all of this. Now that you put your data into this cloud system, you do want to make sure you back it up, especially the key users. So if you have like salespeople that you think might have critical information, if they did leave the organization, you would want to have their email backed up, or OneDrive, SharePoint, all those things, whatever's in their box, you want to have it backed up so that you can go back and look at it, because you want to have versioning as well, because if it's someone that's leaving, a disgruntled employee or something, they're going to delete all the things in the system. So you want to make sure that you have that backed up. So
100%, absolutely. Just like you would back up a file server on site, you should have the same mindset of a OneDrive SharePoint site. We all provide backup to our clients. It's a very important piece of this. I don't see any other questions. We will have this posted on our YouTube. If you haven't yet, we definitely recommend subscribing to our YouTube channel if you have a YouTube. Not only do we put out a lot of webinars, we put out a lot of good tech tips and a lot of just good content in general, we think anyway. Hopefully you feel the same. Kamal, phenomenal job as usual. We're definitely bringing you back for next year. We've gotten a lot of good feedback, and actually this webinar was a recommendation from one of our clients that's actually on the call, Debbie Nipper. She's like, hey, I really want to learn about OneDrive. She sent me an email after our last one. I was like, we're going to do one on OneDrive. So it really is that easy for the most part. So if you're interested in learning more, we're interested in teaching you more. So thank you all so much for joining the call. We'll make sure I have the recordings out soon, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, y'all.